Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 8-ish of Tracknowledgement. I did this kind of episode 7.5, little short thing about the modern capability of chopping and screwing samples and feeding them into a MIDI pad and whacking on that. So this is episode 8. Tracknowledgement is a series where I delve behind the scenes into the sample production on a hip-hop song, usually for my band Type 4. This time I'm stepping aside and doing something slightly different. Recently, I joined a bunch of hip-hop groups on Facebook. You know, most of them boil down to, who's the GOAT, Jeezy or Jay-Z. And, an hour of that is fine for me, and then I move on. So, but I was recommended to join a group called the Producers Corner. Really cool stuff. Bunch of producers, much like myself. Wide range of backgrounds and geographies and even just approaches and what type of stuff they use. I use Reason, but I've only been doing that for the past couple of years. I was ADAT 16-track digital for far too long, really. I started in 93, September 93, and I was still plugging away on those ADATs until 2012, 2013. And then before the ADATs, before 93, I had a bunch of different 4-tracks. This is an old, a new copy of an old model of the Fostex X15 4-track that I used 87, 88, and then after that I had Yamaha MT3X and a Yamaha MT4X 4-track. Anyway, so this producers group, it's really cool. People talking about the kind of stuff I can relate to, and all the posts need to be approved, which is a godsend. They can just keep the page focused on producers, and it's generally hip hop, but it's whatever works. And they have a thing called the Sample Challenge, which I just found out about this week, so this is my first one, where they let everyone know a song, an original song to sample from. Here, all the producers sample from this, go nuts, do your own thing with it, add whatever you want on top of it, change it, whatever, but use this song. And then people can post their entries, and it's like a contest. I thought it was cool, and I like the source material, so I sampled from it. The source material was what is it called? Quest Under Capricorn by the Shaolin Afronauts. So I'm not going to post that, the song on here, because that would violate all sorts of crap on YouTube. But go look it up for the source material. And I went in, just as I do, I fed it all into Reason and looked through and picked out a whole bunch of different parts. I used 9 or 10, 11 different parts from the song. Vibraphones. It's like a jazzy kind of a fusion kind of thing. Vibraphones, bass line, horns, just the general atmosphere of it. So let me delve into that. The first thing, this is really how the song starts. So I figured, I know it's obvious, and I knew that a lot of people, their style was more to chop stuff up and really change it. So they were going to feed this in and kind of play it on a MIDI pad or a keyboard and really change that. And after doing mine, I didn't want to listen to anyone else's before I did mine, because I didn't want to, I wanted to keep my mind fresh. But after finishing mine, I went and listened to other people's, and it's really cool, different ideas. And many people going at it like, cool, I don't want it to sound like the original at all. Let me really just chop this up. And there's one that's almost like a disco, like a faster electro kind of thing. It's cool. I kept it a little more mellow, jazzy. It ends up becoming kind of trip-hoppy, which is, I guess, kind of where I'm at. I guess if you sample drum breaks and bass lines and loops and funk, and it's not really fast enough to dance to, then it kind of is reminiscent of trip hop, almost as if trip hop is the last time producers really did that kind of stuff, because things have definitely moved on to more of, electronic sound, drum machines, keyboards, which, I mean, I do that as well. And shit, I was doing that in, 85, 86, drum machines and everything. But I really like the sampled stuff. So we start off with kind of the main loop, how the song starts. Really mellow, just, I guess it's probably electric piano, might be vibraphone, but it's got vibrato to it, so lower no slightly. Now you listen as it loops. I didn't like that, the way it clips, because it goes into the song and that the flutes come in or whatever that is, and it continues. So what I had to do in order to loop it was grab that little part that happens next and have that happen on the downbeat of the next measure and fade that out, so that when you play them together, the main loop can loop, and then that fades, and then but did them on separate tracks. I did a lot of that kind of thing in order to rearrange things. Then you get to the second part of this main loop. This is a little later. This is the end of the song, actually. So there's a bass line. So I probably should have taken more bass line off of that now that I think about it. I don't know why I left all that on there. Good hint for producers. Two things you do before before you're done with it. Just take a look, go through all your individual tracks. If you have the time, listen to them separately, and you might notice something like that. Like, why did I leave the bass line on that? I sampled the bass line for its own separate track. I should have taken the bass line off of that. You avoid too many harmonics and rumble and detune and things like that. I should have taken that off. Whatever, the final product, is fine. I listen to that. The other tip is listen in headphones. I mean, some people mix in headphones or produce in headphones. Some people are in a little apartment and have to produce. If that's your listening environment and you make it sound great, fine. That's how you learn. You know how to make that work. Me, I need it coming out through the air. I need to be in a space, with stereo hits me, proper speaker placement and all that. But when it's all done, I mean, you never know. Your ear fatigue and the ambience of the room and everything, you just get used to how it is. And you think, that sounds great. And then you can do a final mix and then, send it off to somebody, and then you pop it in your headphones, 2 days later, walking to the bus or something, and you realize the whole thing is just rumble. You should have got rid of certain frequencies, or the vocals don't stand out, whatever it is. Just check in different environments. Listen in headphones, listen in a car, listen, your tinny little phone speaker should be able to listen to it that way. So yeah, that second loop, the first bit is from the beginning of the song. Excuse me. And the second bit's from the end of the song. But that's the basics. And then that bass line you hear, what I did is I grabbed it and soloed it. I don't know if you can hear that. And filtered it. And this is funny. All day yesterday, well, 2 nights ago really, working on this, I had this really pumping, and I thought I had blown the woofer on my right monitor speaker. It's even still rattling a little. It turned out just to be the back plate where the plugs are was rattling, so I had to unscrew it and put in some foam and screw it back in. Producing. So that's the bass line, same kind of thing. What's next? So that's how it starts. Okay, yeah, so those come in with the bass line, and then after a few beats, I brought this in. here, which after getting into the flow of this, where it was kind of slow, ethereal jazz fusion kind of stuff, I went and I just found a whole bunch of other, jazz fusion stuff. I have a pretty good library of that, and this was just the start of a song, just a rim shot, and it gives it a little rim shot and a hi-hat, gives it a little pulse as it starts to get the rhythm in. Let's see. Then I brought this in from a completely different song. Pretty good loop. Happened to be right on key. So that combined with that's it getting going, Over this I added my own. Oh well. Alright, so yeah, then so I added this sampled drum pattern. It's a halftime beat. And the sonics on it are a little weird. It's a little filtered because I had to do stuff to it. But the original song did go halftime like that. So it was cool with that. It got me a lot of options. I was able to leave it like that. But then later in the song, I was able to chop up the space between the bass and the snare to make it go double time, kind of, without speeding up the sample. I just shortened it, and it did this. Same pattern with the hi-hat. I was just taking out an eighth note, getting rid of the space between the bass and the snare and everything. Which is the first part of the build-up. The second part is when I actually do this. That's taking the whole sample track, the whole beat track, and just time stretching it by half, So that's the beat on those. Since the beat was a little thin, I like the sound and that really punchy snare, but I had to add my own drum programming over that. I usually do anyway, but especially on this. Just basic. And as it goes on, add a little more. There's nice open hi-hats and ride cymbals in this to give it a nice jazzy live feel. That's when it picks up a bit, and then when it picks up a lot, there's that. And a little later in the song, I add tambourines, claps, your basics. I had to do the tambourines on their own track because they were too loud. But the rest of it is just coming right from drum machine. Alright, so now let me show you what I did with the bass line. This is it rumbling regular speed, but I wanted it to pick up at a certain point in the song, so I took that and again just shortened it by half. So what's cool about that is that's going double time as the beat is halftime. Then I added another sample beat to give it a little pep. Just doing this. Again, that just the one snare, halftime. Alright, going back, at that point, so when I first heard the Afronauts song, the first thing that came to mind was this other jazz fusion thing that I had already had in mind to sample. They sounded so much alike that I just put it in here. It worked perfectly. I think they were actually in the same key and pretty much the same tempo. So, all this. Nice long sample with some variation to it. You know, the rest of it was kind of repetitive, and that one flows and goes somewhere, and it flows right out of the same key. It's really nice. I also have, what is this? Oh yeah. So to thicken up the beat a little, I took a break beat. And this one I had to stretch double time in order to go half time. At the chorus it goes full. And there's not much to it, it's just, you know, there for body. The beats. I wanted the beats to be kind of simple, I didn't really do a lot. The only place in the song it really changes is at this bridge thing where this goes. That. Again, just a break beat, you know. And then at the very end, the last few measures, I add this. A big kind of clappy break beat. Then the fast one comes in again. So it really picks up, you know. It starts off very slow. I think every one of these Tracknowledgements I've talked about the Salieri line about Mozart, you know, that it begins like a rusty squeeze box. You know, I like it kind of coming in. Now, I think a lot of people in this Producers Challenge are making, you know, 1.5 minutes, 2.5 minute beats, you know, showing off, here's this really cool idea, how I use the sample. And I understand, I mean, if you just want to do that and get it out there, this is my idea. That's what the thing is about. That's fine. It's just my own craziness that wants to produce the thing as a full song, as an instrumental. And when I first did it, I approached it like a song, like my vocalist Tommy was going to do, a verse here, a chorus here, a bridge. So the song was 8 minutes long because I was like, okay, this will progress and then this changes, and I realized, you know, for an instrumental, you need the music to just keep changing, keep popping. Here's this. Didn't expect this, you know. So let me go back earlier on and just show you what else ends up in there. You heard most of the loops and how it speeds up. This is cool. So this loop that I was playing, the second longer thing. There's a bass line to that, and it runs slow like that, you know, and that's this here. You know, and so that runs half speed. So I brought that in when the beat goes double speed. So in other words, at the point where the beat is half speed, the bass line is double speed. And then at the point where the beat goes double speed or full speed, the bass line goes half speed. So it's this contradiction polyrhythms and everything. It's what I was interested in doing with this. Also throughout, this is, let me show you this just one time. Where'd it go? This. I just like having breakdowns. One of the last things I do when I work on a piece of music, especially the beats, is go through and do percussion, drum machine. I need, a crash cymbal. What drummer in the world wouldn't hit a crash cymbal at the beginning of a chorus? Wouldn't start to hit a ride cymbal second part of the verse, So I do that. And the other thing that any drummer would do would be to have the fills. To just loop a beat on its own and leave it alone. Of course that can work, it's, bugging out, any Tribe song. It's just the beat chugging, which is great. I just like there being a live element. I like people to listen to it and be like, that sounds like a band. There's a detriment to that. There's a drawback. You can listen to it and be like, oh, that's a band. And you don't hear the production. You don't hear the sample production. You don't hear the person sampling. It's like a director staying out of the way of a movie. You can look at someone like Wes Anderson, who I love. And his style is very, proscenium. It's like he's taking a photograph, setting everything up perfectly. And you can tell, you can look at 2 minutes of any Wes Anderson movie and see that it's a Wes Anderson movie. So can you listen to any 2 minutes of a Pete Rock song and hear it's a Pete Rock production? Of course. Large Professor or, 45 King or something. Like you can tell what they're doing. And then for film directors, there's someone like Clint Eastwood, who just stays out of the way. His job is to pick the right actors, pick the right project, and just turn the camera on and let these professionals do their job. And for me, it's almost what I do with sampling, really, where I don't really let them do their thing, because I do change a lot, but I change it to do what I want it to do. The script for the song, really. But I get out of the way. I want it to just sound like a completed piece of music, a song, when I'm done. And there's ways to screw around and really show off, chopped and screwed samples and stuff like that. It's very cool. I always get a kick out of it. It doesn't come naturally to me. It kind of did, once when I first started sampling, 87, and I would play around on a sampling keyboard. It was a Yamaha VSS 100. And that was fun, But after a while it just feels gimmicky, and I wanted to create pieces of music, songs, really. Anyway, so that's kind of it up to date, and then we get to, after it was all going all together, I needed a change. It's been, it's been going pretty steady, and we're at the 2.5 minute mark. Well, about a little over 2 minutes, and I wanted to just break down and do something different. So again, going to jazz fusion, I found this. Guess more electric piano. Again, bringing in the rim shot. And the breakdown. And again doing this loop, the original loop, and that fading. Yeah, there is no point, I don't know if you can see the screen, probably not, but these orange bits here, there is no point in this song, which is what, 4.5 minutes long or whatever. There's no point in the song where there isn't a loop going from the Afronauts song. That was my guiding principle, is I wouldn't just start with a loop from, the sample source and then go off into my own tangent. By the way, here's a piece of music I've been working on for 2 years. I'm just going to throw a sample in front of it, and here you go. I wanted it to be organic and really come for this. I wanted to work on this as its own project. Again, it sparked ideas, connections I had to other jazz fusion things, so I worked those in because they meshed very well. But I wanted to just work on this now, and in fact I downloaded the source song at 9 a.m. on Monday morning, and I finished the production on this and emailed it off to the guy running the Chris, the guy running the contest at 3 p.m. on Tuesday. So that's a total of 30 hours. I didn't work 30 hours straight. I didn't actually sleep much. I was up until like 4 a.m. I'm sometimes getting nocturnal when I get into this kind of stuff. But, you know, I took a break. I was working during the day on Monday. Took a couple hours break to, you know, my girlfriend came home. We cooked dinner and watched Jessica Jones and whatever, you know. But then I was back to it. Slept maybe 3 hours from like 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then got back to it. Anyway, this isn't recommended behavior. I'm just saying I wanted to get it done and the whole thing done, and got it done within 30 hours. But I probably spent about a day on it, which would be cool if I keep doing that every week, kind of like spend a day doing it. Alright, so yeah, halfway through this break thing, I start to bring the beats back, but that's going like on time, and then I brought in the original beat going half time. So again, you get that dichotomy of fast and slow at the same time. And then one of my favorite things to do with Reason that has always kind of been in my head, but was really hard to do when I was just laying tracks into ADAT, just kind of throwing everything everywhere, all the loops, and then going back and doing edits and stuff, is it was really tough for me to just put in a break, a slight little get your attention pause really, you know. That's what I did here. And it comes back in. One of the things I did to really accentuate the pause is you know how I was pointing out that loop, the main loop at the beginning, that it goes, and then when it loops I had to add that little extra bit from the beginning, that in order to loop it. This is the only time in the song where I don't let it do that and just stops. But the reason I did that is to really call attention to the fact that the music stops, and then here it is, and then the flute from the next break comes in and it's on the same note and it fades in. So here's what happens. So, and that sounds like this when all is said and done. And this loop, this is from the middle of the song. This I found on the second morning I was working on it, and I thought there needs to be more towards the end of this piece of music. It's just kind of the same thing throughout. And after that break, after that bridge there, I wanted it to come back with something different. So I found this flute loop from later in the Afronaut song. And horns. Now again, it was a little problematic because I wanted it was this great flute phrase that led into it, but it was a little offbeat and didn't fit, so I had to put it on its own track, requantize it, which is this. And that leads into it. Combine them with the beat. Yeah, so. And then as that's going, I brought the longer sample back in to give it a little variation in flavor. Bass line going throughout. Oh, alright. Forgot to point out one other little thing that I was adding when I was looking for jazz loops, I found this little bass line bit, and the only part that really worked was the ending of the phrasing, and there were two different ends, and I put them both in here, which is this beat. Nice high plucked bass. So that's in there. As the song starts to end, I like those rising flute and horn chords, but I wanted to do something different with them. So did that. And that goes with the beat. But then as the song ends and the beat goes halftime, I also changed the noise gate to halftime. That's just like the song winding down. The song builds up and winds down. At the very end, pretty much the last thing, well, the last thing I added were some cuts, I'll show you that. But the last piece of music that I added was this crazy, again, jazz fusion thing with this really weird saxophone. The guy's playing, and it's like, as I played it for Tom, and he's like, it sounds like some weird Middle Eastern thing. And that's this. Kind of goes stereo too. And on that, I wanted to sound even weirder, so I actually split it to two separate tracks. Made one of them, put one of them on a quarter beat delayed reverb that fades in, a reverse reverb. And I started it a quarter beat early, so it fades in and catches up with the other one. So this is the reverb. Just a reverb on its own. And you hear it kind of fading in backwards. But then the two of them together, it's not a big effect, but that's what I wanted with it. Yeah, and then it just, that comes to an end. So the last thing I did, when I was done with all the music, I wanted there to be something to kind of accent it, something to grab your attention here or there. And it being a song by the Shaolin Afronauts, and it being July 2019, which means in just a few days it'll be the 50th anniversary of the moon landing, I thought, I'll do something, with NASA, with Apollo, with moon stuff. And I'm a bit of a space nut, so I've got a ton of recordings and DVDs and stuff, space documentaries, the DVD box sets that are the complete radio and television broadcasts of Gemini and Apollo and all that. But I have this old 45 record, First Man on the Moon, which has bits, snippets from the Apollo 11 broadcast, the television broadcast and radio broadcast and stuff like that. And I had, excuse me, I'd done an instrumental years ago, 10 years ago, I don't know, more, with our old DJ Bill scratching that. And if you've ever tried to scratch with a 45, DJ with a 45, you know how difficult that can be. So that was fun, and I called that "Kicking Up Some Dust," and I never really did anything with it. It was just him freestyling, and I added a whole bunch of echo. But for this, I went back and I got that, put it on my 1200, and just scratched. Kind of went through. I did 5 tracks of me just going through the entire record, scratching out little phrases, and then went back and grabbed some and put them where I wanted, put an echo on them. So, for instance, let me solo all of them.
The most colossal adventure in their own history.
Yeah, nothing spectacular. I mean, I can scratch, but I'm not a DJ. I just wanted the sound of a voice and of vinyl manipulation. There's something about the sound of a needle moving on vinyl. That's a very live, very interactive, very personal sound. It's someone doing that, as opposed to sampling keyboards. Where it's a little automated. Someone has to do it, but then you just press a button. But scratching, I've often described. I talked about this with my friend Charlie, DJ Cuckoo. I've described the sound of vinyl, of scratching, is the electric guitar solo of hip hop. The way that a rock song, even a modern rock song, it can be just chords and a beat and everything, even if people are playing it or they're programming it. That's the structure of the song, and then the thing you want, the human touch, the solo, is electric guitar. And in hip hop, it's vinyl manipulation. It's the sound, even the anything. Just you can fake it, and as long as you have that in there, it adds such a great live element, such a personal element to it. And I wanted to have that in here. I want to have it in every song. There's an argument to be made that a hip hop song isn't a hip hop song unless it has scratching in it. Most don't anymore, so there's that argument. But I went through and I just added a few. I think he says picking up some dust, but I like kicking up some dust. This one gets a little lost in the mix. Unfortunately, but that's the only thing I would change about my mix if I took an extra day, is the part where it says all systems are go is right where the beat changes from halftime to full time, and it would have been cool to solo that, to take the drum fill out and you can hear that, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Then
you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again.
That's the end of transmission beat from them. So yeah, I just added that kind of stuff at the very end. Way in the background, it's Apollo 8 or 10. Someone who went to the moon but didn't land, and they're describing how the moon is gray and black and white and everything. And at the very end of the song, I added one more transmission end beat.
Apollo 11, good day to you.
Oh, I didn't solo. Where is it? Oh, that's why. And that's it. Another episode of Tracknowledgement. Wish me luck on the sample challenge contest. And I'll do another one of these talking about a Type 4 song. I always run a little longer than I want. But hope you enjoyed, and check out the other Tracknowledgement episodes where I delve behind the scenes into hip-hop production for Type 4. I'll see you next time. Thanks.